My name is Liam, and I was 20 when I started college. Like most freshmen, I was a bundle of nerves, excitement, and curiosity. The campus felt enormous, alive with buzzing conversations and unfamiliar faces everywhere I turned. But among all those strangers, one face would become unforgettable that very day. Her name was Miss Eleanor Hart. She taught literature. She was 50 years old, yet possessed a kind of timeless elegance that made the world pause. Her silver hair, loosely tied back in a bun, framed a face that seemed carved from stories. Her eyes were something else, deep, serene, and filled with a quiet mystery, as if she'd lived 1,000 lives and remembered everyone. During orientation, I caught her looking at me more than once. It wasn't uncomfortable or strange, more like I sparked a memory in her. It felt like I reminded her of someone she used to know. After lunch, as most students began heading to their first classes, I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned around. "Liam, right?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "Would you mind helping me with something in room 107? It'll just take a moment." I nodded, and we walked down a quieter hallway together. Room 107 was in the older part of the building, a section that looked almost forgotten. She opened the door and motioned for me to step in. I did, and she followed, gently closing the door behind us. I stood silently, unsure of what she needed. She looked at me for a moment, longer than usual, and finally spoke. "You remind me of someone I once knew," she said softly. "Someone who meant the world to me." Her voice was warm, but there was a weight behind it, something heavy, something aching. I didn't know how to respond. She sat down on the edge of the desk, her eyes still fixed on mine. "Do you think it's possible," she asked, "for people to feel a deep connection the moment they meet, without knowing why?" I shrugged gently. "Maybe, if there's something real beneath it." A faint smile curved her lips. "That's how I felt the second I saw you." My chest tightened. Was I reading too much into her words? She stood and stepped closer. "I've been alone a long time," she whispered. "People see me as just a teacher. But inside, I'm still a woman who longs to be seen, to be touched." Her hand brushed lightly against mine, and I froze. "I don't want to frighten you," she said gently. "Just say, talk to me, please." He nodded. And so we talked. 4 hours. About regrets, lost dreams, the people who slipped through our lives and left holes behind. She told me about her late husband and the emptiness that lingered ever since. I shared my own story, about my broken family, the loneliness that never quite left me, and the feeling of not belonging anywhere. And somewhere in that quiet space between pain and honesty, something shifted. Her emotions, my emotions, they met like two waves crashing into each other. She leaned in, her lips brushing mine, soft, slow, filled with longing. We kissed again, deeper each time. Her hands trembled against my face, and I pulled her into my arms. It wasn't about desire. It wasn't rushed. It was about filling the silence inside us both. We stayed in that room for 6 hours. Kissing, talking, holding each other like time had stopped and the world outside didn't exist. "I wish it could stay like this," she whispered against my chest. "So do I," I replied. But time moved on, no matter how tightly we held each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we knew it was time to go. She walked over to the door and tried the handle. It didn't budge. Her brow furrowed as she tried again. "It's not opening." I joined her, trying the knob, turning, pulling, pushing. Still nothing. "This door doesn't lock from the outside," she said, confused. "And there's no keyhole. Not from this side." We exchanged a nervous glance. Then something caught my eye. A small folded piece of paper sticking out from beneath the desk. I bent down and picked it up. One sentence, written in thick, black ink, chilled me to my bones. "Now you know how it feels, to be watched, to be trapped." I turned to Eleanor. Her face had gone pale. Someone was here," she whispered. And then we both realized. Room 107 didn't have a camera. But the small window in the door had been covered from the outside. Someone had planned this. And they weren't finished. I stared at the note again, the words burning into my mind. Now you know how it feels to be watched, to be trapped. I saw everything, the note read. Miss Eleanor Hart stood frozen beside me, her breath shallow, eyes locked on the paper in my hand. Someone planned this, she whispered, her voice trembling. Liam, someone knew we'd be here. My eyes swept across the room again, panic rising in my chest. The window on the door. Someone had covered it with black paper while we were inside. The realization struck me hard. Why would anyone do this? Asked my voice low. Her eyes were wide now, glistening with something between fear and certainty. There's only one person I can think of. Her words drifted into silence. Who? Press gently. Her face drained of color. Mr. Dawson, she said. The department head. He's been watching me for years. Controlling. Possessive. When I turned him down last year, he threatened me. Said no one else would ever have me. A cold shiver ran through my spine. Do you think he's been following you? She gave a slow, hesitant nod. He knows my schedule. He knows I sometimes use this room to be alone. But today, he must have seen me bring you here. That's when we heard it. Footsteps in the hall. Heavy, measured, deliberate. We both froze, not daring to move. Then came a sound that chilled us deeper than any scream. A soft, mocking tap. Tap, tap on the door. Silence followed. Eleanor gripped my arm tightly. Don't move. A sheet of paper slid under the door. I bent down and picked it up. In bold print it said, "Choices have consequences. At 7 p.m. the door opens. But only one walks out." I looked at my watch. 6:45 p.m. 15 minutes. We sank down against the wall, backs pressed to the cool surface, trying to stay calm. Her head rested gently on my shoulder, and I could feel the slight tremble running through her. Liam, I'm scared. I won't let anything happen to you, I whispered. She turned her face toward mine, her eyes raw with emotion. Affection. And then she kissed me again, soft, desperate, as if it might be our last. No matter what happens, she murmured, I don't regret what we shared. You made me feel alive again. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tightly as the seconds dragged by like hours. Then, at exactly 7 p.m., we heard the doorknob click. The door creaked open slowly. There was no one there. Just an empty hallway, dim and silent. We stood and stepped out cautiously. The corridor felt like a ghost town. But across from the room, taped to the wall, was a small envelope. Eleanor's name was written across it in red ink. With shaking hands, she tore it open. Inside was a photograph, me and her, kissing in that very room. And a note. This isn't over. You were a lesson. She was the target. My blood ran cold. We stared at each other as the truth settled in. This wasn't just about trapping us. This was about destroying her. Me. I was only the bait. Tears welled up in Eleanor's eyes. They're going to use this against me. No, I said firmly. We'll go to the police. We'll tell them everything. But when we reached the dean's office, the damage had already been done. The photograph was sitting there, neatly placed on the desk alongside a typed letter. It was an official complaint, an accusation of misconduct, a recommendation for immediate suspension. The trap had already closed. They didn't just want to humiliate her. They wanted to end her. Security arrived moments later. She was taken in for questioning. As she was escorted away, she turned back one last time and whispered, "Don't forget me, Liam. This wasn't just a moment. It was real." And then she was gone. That was the last time I saw Eleanor Hart. Or so I thought. 6 months later, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Eleanor standing barefoot on a beach, smiling toward the horizon. Peaceful. Free. On the back, just a single line. New name. New life. I'm finally free. Thank you for being my miracle.